You know that feeling when you wake up and you just know you had a great night's sleep? That amazing, deep, restorative feeling? It's something we're all chasing. But what if the secret to that feeling isn't a quiet mind at all, but a mind that's busy telling itself incredible stories? We're about to dive into some truly fascinating new research that basically flips our whole idea of deep sleep right on its head. So, let's just start with that basic question. When you think of deep sleep, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably a state of total shutdown, right? You figure your brain is switched off, you're completely unconscious, but is that the whole story? Scientists are now starting to wonder if our own experience, what our sleep actually feels like to us, might hold a very different answer.
And this, right here, lays out the central puzzle perfectly. On one hand, we have the common belief. Deep sleep means a quiet, slow, unconscious brain. But on the other hand, there's this new clue pointing to something else entirely. A brain that's having vivid, active dreams. A brain whose activity can look so much like a waking brain, you'd have a hard time telling them apart on a scan. The old way of thinking was that deep sleep is about the absence of experience. The new idea, it might be all about the quality of that experience.
Okay, so this brings us to our first section, the deep sleep paradox. Researchers at the IMT School for Advanced Studies, Lucca in Italy, were staring down a real mystery.
So here's the paradox in action. We often feel our absolute best, our most rested, after REM sleep. And REM sleep is, of course, famous for its wild, vivid dreams. But here's the thing. If you look at a brain scan during REM, it's buzzing with high-frequency activity. It looks almost identical to being awake. So, how can a brain that looks awake give us the feeling of being deeply asleep? It's a total contradiction, and it's one that scientists really needed to figure out. So to get to the bottom of this, to figure out what's really happening inside our heads when we sleep, researchers had to get a little creative. They decided the best way was to get evidence directly from the source, even if it meant, interrupting a perfectly good night's sleep.
All in the name of science, of course.
And here's how they pulled it off. They got 44 people to come sleep in a lab for 4 nights, all hooked up to brainwave monitors. And then they woke them up. A lot. We're talking over 1,000 times, right in the middle of NREM2 sleep, which is the most common stage of sleep for us. The second they were awake, participants had to answer 2 simple questions. First, what was just going through your mind? And second, how deep did your sleep feel? This created this incredible data set that linked hard brain activity data directly to someone's personal, subjective experience.
And this is where the investigation takes its first really surprising turn, because buried in that brainwave data was a twist that challenged, pretty much everything they thought they knew.
And here's what they found. Normally, that wake-like brain activity is a surefire sign of shallow, easily disrupted sleep. But the data showed that when a person was dreaming, that rule it didn't really apply anymore. The connection was way, way weaker. It's almost as if the dream itself was acting as a kind of buffer, shielding the sleeper from feeling the disruptive effects of all that awake brain activity. But, believe it or not, that wasn't even the biggest revelation. The real bombshell dropped when the researchers decided to look closer at what it actually means when someone says they weren't dreaming at all.
They discovered this totally fascinating state they called CESP. Now, try to imagine this. You're not having a dream, there are no images, no thoughts, but you still feel present. You still have a sense that time is passing. It's this bare-bones, minimal kind of consciousness. And it turns out this wasn't some rare thing. About half the time people reported no dream, they were actually in this CESP state.
And when they charted the results, they found the most stunning clue of all. The state that felt the absolute shallowest, the least restful? It wasn't true, deep unconsciousness. Nope. It was this empty, contentless awareness, that CESP state. Both vivid dreaming and complete unconsciousness were rated as feeling much, much deeper. So think about that. The emptiest state of mind is what feels the least restful. This led the researchers straight to the smoking gun. If some experiences feel deep and others feel shallow, maybe it all comes down to the quality of the dream itself. So they focused on this concept they call perceptual immersion. It's basically a fancy way of measuring how real and all-encompassing a dream feels. You know what I'm talking about. Those dreams with super high vividness that feel like they go on for a long time, the ones packed with rich details, strong emotions, and even a healthy dose of bizarreness. That right there is high perceptual immersion. And the link was crystal clear. The more immersive the dream, the deeper the sleep was perceived to be. And get this was even true for what they called white dreams, which is when someone felt like they'd had a really rich dream but just couldn't remember any of the details upon waking. Just the feeling of having had an immersive experience was enough.
All right, so let's put all these clues together.
In our final section, we're going to look at a powerful new theory for why we dream in the first place.
To really get this, we have to look at how a typical night unfolds. When you first fall asleep, your biological sleep pressure is super high. Your body is desperate for rest. But as the hours tick by, especially after maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, that pressure starts to drop off. Your body's physical need for sleep is actually decreasing as you get closer to your alarm clock.
And here is the final mind-bending paradox. Even though our objective need for sleep is going down later in the night, the participants in the study reported that their sleep felt deeper as the night went on. How is that possible? If your body is getting less sleepy, shouldn't your sleep feel lighter, not deeper?
And the answer was in the dreams themselves. The data showed this just beautiful inverse relationship. As our physical need for sleep falls, the perceptual immersion of our dreams actually rises. Our dreams literally become more vivid, more complex, and more engaging later in the night, which is precisely when our body needs a little extra help to stay asleep.
So the researchers proposed this amazing idea, that our dreams act as the guardians of sleep. By creating a rich, immersive, story-filled world, our dreams effectively build a buffer around our minds. They protect that stable feeling of being deeply asleep even as our brain activity gets more wake-like and our physical sleep drive fades. They keep us tucked into the story so we don't wake up.
So the next time you wake up from some totally bizarre, vivid dream, don't just dismiss it as random nonsense. It might have been your mind's own movie director, standing guard, creating an internal world so compelling that it protected your rest and gave you that precious feeling of a truly deep sleep. Something to think about, right?